It's a trap!
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
This is the Team of Rivals podcast.
Everything you want to hear from the big sports to the big screen.
He's all by himself, fires into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! No!
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
He doesn't like you. I don't like you either.
Time winding down. Michael for three. Yes! She is gone!
I don't believe what I just saw!
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
You believe in miracles?
You may fire when ready.
What?
Ho, everyone. What a night. What a day. What a week. What a bunch of bullshit for baseball. We are going to, unfortunately, be forced to talk about that once again this week. I know we made a declaration that we were going to move off of this subject matter and onto other things that we actually find more interesting at this point in time. Unfortunately, there's not a lot out there that's really interesting to us, and it just happens to be... Whoa. Whoa, what was that? I heard myself there for a second. I don't like that, Pete. You know how I am about hearing my own voice. So we've got, unfortunately, I think a lion's share of the evening we'll be talking about just what the hell's going on, what the proposal's like, and the fact that the MLBPA counter proposed. Is that the right thing, the wrong thing? I know we have some strong opinions on this stuff, and I can't wait till we can get off of this and onto something else. For love of God, gentlemen. I don't know what much to say here because we're a little bit we're on the cusp of being a broken record every week. We don't want to talk about baseball necessarily, but we're kind of forced to because I don't really know. I don't know what else there is that's as pithy as this right now. And we're not going to talk about politics. That's not what we do here. Unfortunately, we are going to talk about politics just in a baseball sense. So, Pete, you had a pretty strong and lengthy text. I'll admit I didn't want to read it all. Because I figured I was going to hear it tonight anyway. So, man, it sure seemed as though, and I felt I was naive. I fell into the trap too, man. I thought, oh boy, hey, looks like we're gonna get a game again. And then of course they can't wait to debunk it. The players or anybody else can't wait to debunk things. Like they'll do it instantly, even on the official MLBPA players. Twitter account, like they had to just jump on it, right, out of principle, out of a pissing match, out of a slap fight, and it's just I don't know, guys, take the floor.
You know what, Ron? Yeah, I talked about it a little bit in that text that you referenced. Right now, I don't know how representative I am of other people, but I'm at the point right now where I'm not angry like I was in '94. I'm apathetic, and I think that actually is worse. I'm at the point now where even if they do declare a season, I don't know how interested I'm going to be in it. And my fear is that there are a lot of people like me, and that long term, I'm just not going to come back, and that other people like me are going to do the same.
Pretty much. Elliott, let me take you off mute. Do you have your mic set up right?
It's a bunch of bullshit. I mean, the players want 70, the owners want 60. There's this thing called math where you kind of meet in the middle. You could probably do 65.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on, guys. It's not that difficult. I mean, the NBA's done it. NHL's figured it out. NFL's going to have it figured out.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are just bickering. It feels like
it's my favorite part. Okay, we'll come back to him in a second.
Screenshot that.
Shut up. Well, you froze
me.
You froze for a second there, Elliot. And on your microphone, are you doing 360 again, or did you have it to the butt setting?
No, I haven't changed it.
Okay. We heard something there. I had to mute you for a few seconds, but okay, it seems to be gone now. So, did you station yourself right next to the sump pump this time, or did you?
No, I am on the opposite side of the house of the sub pump.
Okay.
So there should be.
We're trending right, Pete.
There should be no.
I don't know how I feel about that,
noise
to be honest
coming
with you.
from outside. So.
Yeah, I kind of believed it when I first saw it. I'm like, okay, you know what? Jeff Passon's, I think, was the first. Or no, John Heyman was first to tweet, hey, looks like there's a deal in place. He did not say that it was a done deal, but it sure read kind of like he knows something. It looks like they're going to settle somewhere here. And it's just frustrating because, look, and I get it from the player's standpoint. I understand it. Look, my dad was a union worker for Caterpillar for years. I mean, I know it's not the same thing. I'm comparing different types of fruit here, not the same one. But, I understand what that's like. But I just, don't understand the urge. Pete, you know this, right? You've seen me do it before. If I have an issue with somebody, even if it's on social media, if I have access to them, or we follow each other and I can DM them, what do you think I usually default to when I do that? Do I go run to Twitter to pretend to stand on some kind of fake moral high ground to make myself look better? Or all that shit is doing is, hey fans, we're wanting to play. This is not us. This is all on the Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred, and the ownership group. It's 100% on them because we want to play. Oh, wait a minute. We want to play, but we need a little bit more. We need some more games. We need this and that. So I just am a firm believer. If you've got issues like that, this whole fucking negotiation should have been behind closed doors. Like us as fans, we're adults, right? Most of us are. I know a lot of us don't act like it on social media, but most of us are, right? And so, fine, leave us in the dark for a month, but shut the damn doors, figure it out. And I don't want to hear I don't want to hear a fucking thing until they tell us when they're going to start, or if they're not. Just tell us when you're starting. And I don't care if it's 2021 or if it's a month from now. I don't care. I don't want to hear a damn thing. I don't want to hear Trevor Bauer bitching like he usually does on Twitter, although he's probably been one of my favorite people to follow because he tells it like it is. And then in all the other ones, I just blanket all of them. Shut the fuck up. I know it's freedom of speech, and I know you have a social media account, and I understand the frustration. You want to talk to your boss, say, what the hell are you doing? I can't talk to him, so I'm going to go to social media, and Twitter is going to solve it for me. Hey, do you remember that argument that was those two guys worked something out on Twitter, and they didn't end up killing each other? No? Because it's never happened. Nobody's ever solved shit on social media. Take it behind closed doors, guys. Let's pull up our big boy baseball pants. Let's cinch up our ties there, executives. Stop talking to people. Don't talk to Jeff Passan. Don't talk to Ken Rosenthal. Don't talk to Tim Kirkagen, although I believe he's probably the most harmless guy on the planet. Don't talk to any of them. They all want to break it first.
Well, Ron, I know that you're familiar with this.
Maybe.
And working in schools, I'm very familiar with it. When you're in the midst of a negotiation with a union or an association, one of the first rules is you cannot negotiate in public. That's actually a violation of NLRB rules, that whichever party does that is going to lose a grievance. You don't negotiate in public. Both sides are doing it. I don't understand why both sides haven't filed a grievance and brought in the NLRB. I mean, they would be 100% justified. But the other thing that stuns me, and I know we've talked about it before, and I guarantee I sound like a broken record, but why the hell wasn't this done and planned? It's been 3 months since everything got shut down. Why did you not lock yourselves in a room for 2 weeks, Tony Clark and Rob Manfred, and say, all right, we're going to work this out. We're going to take the players out of it. We're going to take the owners. We're going to take the agents. We're going to take everybody out of this thing. And we're going to hammer out a framework for, if we come back on May 15th, this is the season. If we come back on June 15th, this is the season. And work it out all the way to the end. For all three of us, if we were so neglectful that we hadn't planned ahead on this, if something like this happened in our businesses and we didn't take the time to sit down and start thinking ahead of what are we going to do in 2 weeks? What are we going to do in 6, 10, so on and so forth? We'd be fired.
Yeah.
My athletic director and I are already talking about, all right, this is what we need to do for the fall with our groups and our sponsors and our coaches. But best case scenario, this is what's going to happen. But let's assume the worst case, and then let's work out the things in between. And if we work on the worst case scenario, that's going to benefit everybody regardless if we're able to come back full. It's like they didn't do that. It's like they just sat on their asses for a month and a half or 2 months.
Yeah.
And just said, we'll get to it eventually. Once we know we'll be able to play, then we'll negotiate. You wasted time and you've antagonized your fan base. And ultimately it's going to lead to the end of baseball. Baseball is going to be on the Ocho with professional lacrosse.
Well, you know what? I don't pin it on, you referred to them as sitting on their ass, and the optics appear that way. I don't disagree. I don't think it's so much that they didn't want to do it. I think they knew they should have done it, Pete, and I think they were reluctant to do it because of the CBA that's around the corner. And so they didn't want to get into those details. They didn't want to get into scenarios where one side's going to have to give a little bit more than the other because of circumstance, right? Like, the players probably stopped. They probably, just like that scene on Dumb and Dumber where he goes, la, 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 la. You didn't want to hear it anymore. Once they said prorated pay for 82 games, they're like, fuck it, walk away. Don't ask any more questions. Like, don't ask a question. Well, okay, well, what about if there's no fans, right? Or the ownership group didn't push that narrative either that, okay, well, we'll agree to prorated pay at 82 games, but if we have to play 25, 50% of our games without the fan revenue being there, I don't know if we can do full prorated, guys. I mean, was that really not talked about? Was that really such a mystery? Because I think if I'm a player, I could probably imagine like, I agree to half. I agree to full prorated for 82 games, and that's it, right? And I'm not going to ask any more questions. But I don't know. It's on both sides. It's just what a hack job this whole damn thing has been. And I don't know. You know what, man? They would have set They would have set TV ratings across the board once they came back. If they would have come back the right way. And right now, it's just they couldn't have achieved what they would have otherwise if they would have planned this better, and if they would have kept quiet and talked to each other instead of talking to the fans. Look, you don't want fans involved in this. Look at us how we vote in All-Star games. You don't want the fans deciding shit. We can claim this is our game all we want, but collectively, we're pretty goddamn dumb when it comes to like what should and shouldn't happen in baseball. And so I don't leave it in the hands of the fans. Don't pay attention to social media. What do you think? You think your most level-headed fans are sitting out there on Twitter? Are you kidding me? Or Facebook, for that matter? Have you been in some of these groups? I don't know, guys.
They're idiots.
Yeah,
I mean, your basic fan is going to come up with some cockamamie scheme, and that's to start the season. That's going to hurt one side or the other, or fans or workers. I mean, this is their goddamn job. They should have, like you guys said, they should have had this shit worked out, and they should have had plan A, plan B, plan C set up for when it was time to come back. And I think you're right, Pete. I think they sat on their asses and waited without talking to each other. And now the fans are suffering for it. And the players in the organizations as a whole in a long term is going to suffer for it.
And here's the thing that worries me. I agree with you, Elliott. The fans are going to suffer for it. If they have enough people who are like me, who are apathetic, and then they tune out this year, and then all they hear about next year, let's assume that the 2021 season is normal. Whether or not you're watching, listening, paying attention on social media, whatever it is, all you hear about is the rising tensions and what's going to happen with the CBA negotiations in 2021. And then we hear that there's not going to be a season in 2022. I mean, how can you have a season just based on the way that things have already gone trying to negotiate the start of this year? Is there anybody who thinks that they're actually going to play a full 162 game season in 2022? You're going to turn the people who are angry completely off. You're going to turn the people who are apathetic into angry. You're going to lose your fan base.
Yeah.
Baseball is on a It's on a crash course, and it's aimed straight at the ground, and there is nobody at the controls.
See, this is when I need the soundbite of Tommy Boy driving into a bridge embankment. That's what I need. In lieu of that, I'll just go ahead and hit it. That's what I read on every fucking tweet that's sent out by either a player or the base.
Yeah.
Oh boy, you pulled that one out. You had to knock the cobwebs off of that one. So yeah, I mean, okay. So let's just talk about baseball when and if it does come back at 60 games. I mean, there are obviously going to be some issues with that, right? I mean, the reason the season is 162 games is because it usually washes out hot streaks and cold streaks, right? Where over the course of an entire season, you tend to get the better teams that end up in the positions to make the postseason. I know it doesn't. I know there's anomalies every once in a while, but for the most part, baseball does kind of wash that shit out, right? Where you got somebody who's hit a team that's just playing unbelievable for 20, 30 games, and then they come back down to earth. And they either kind of get in, or they don't get in at all. But baseball is the length of the season's there for a reason. Although according to Anthony Rizzo, they play too much baseball. But anyway, come on, guys.
I got nothing for you, Ron.
That's one of the top 3 most uncomfortable silent moments we've ever had. But I'll keep going on. A 60-game comes with a little bit of interesting risk, right? Not only do you have a very short window where you got to be playing at your best, basically, and now you've got 16 teams that can potentially make the postseason. So you're going to have maybe some of the shittiest playoff baseball we've seen in a long time, fellas. I don't know.
Yeah, the San Diego Padres might make the playoffs.
Oh, fuck you.
Looking at it strictly from a baseball standpoint, it's going to be the teams that have the best and healthiest pitching staffs when the playoffs start, isn't it?
Yeah, and you got to think that after 60 games,
they're talking about the first. Yeah, they're talking about the wild cards starting best of 3 series. And I know that they've floated out there previously the possibility of it being the team that has the advantage. If they win the first game, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
If the road team wins the first game, then it becomes a best out of 3. Who knows how that's going to turn out, but whoever's pitching staff is healthy and pitching well probably has a really good opportunity to advance far in the playoffs. I just hope that this is a one-off. If they try to extend this into the future for the playoffs, I'm done. I don't want to watch a 76-win team make the playoffs.
No, I don't either. That would be a shame.
I don't want to watch 2 76-win teams play 163rd game for the right to make it to the playoffs.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either. And I think that just to gauge the temperature look, they're probably fans of other teams that feel way different than we do, right? There's probably some Seattle fans or Rockies fans that are like, hell yeah, 16 teams, because now we've got a chance, right? So I'm sure that it's a little bit of a mix, but from what I see out there, there aren't a lot of people in favor of this many teams making it to the postseason. I think everybody's okay with it for 2020 because 2020 is so screwed up anyway that hell, why not, right? I'm surprised that they're talking about taking it into 21 though.
Way that the owners are going to make their money back is those extra games.
Yeah. No, I understand, and that's why in 2020 I think we can give it a pass. The question is, how are we going to feel about the World Series champion in 2020, right? If it ends up being somebody who we thought that, over the long haul, you guys weren't going to be here like this. Now, if it's somebody like can you imagine this? A Dodgers fan, you're so excited that Mookie Betts, you at least get him for 1 year, and now you walk into 2020, and 2020 just takes its knee and shoves it right into your groin and says, "Ha ha! Not so fast. Hope you didn't buy a jersey, bitch." Just Pete touched something. Did you save that? I got to talk tonight. This is great. This audio version of this will be great.
I may go back and get it. I may have marked the tape.
The tape. Oh, the tape. I almost wish sometimes we had tape. It would be easier to deal with. So, anyway, so the interesting thing is, how are we going to feel about this World Series champion in 2020? It's obviously going to feel different. It's going to feel a little bit less. It's going to feel, who hasn't won yet that's like in line to win, and then they finally win? It's like, do you really want to win in a year like this? Of course you do, but Like imagine this being the first
especially if it's 60 or 70 games and we're not even getting a half a season.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the hockey season where it was half a season.
Well, they got lucky when it hit. They had most of the games done though this year, at least in the NHL.
Yeah.
So you're making it to the playoffs. You don't feel so quite as like you just skated in. This is, I don't know. It's going to be weird, but you know what? Now they've got competition. I think you said it earlier that, you know, baseball had a chance to get back here quicker and be ready. I think in Japan they're starting in 9 days? What is today? The 18th? Say the 18th?
Yes, it is.
So they're starting a week from tomorrow. Baseball starts up in Japan even. So, not to say that's one of the top 4 American sports, which is my point is it's a pretty big deal in Japan, right? That's their sport over there. Yeah. And baseball had an opportunity to do the same thing here, and I'm still pissed off at them for it. And as much as we want to get away from talking about this exclusively almost the whole time we're on here, it's hard to avoid right now because it's so frustrating. Anyway, we're white noise because every other swinging dick that has a microphone is talking about the same thing.
I am sick of getting those stupid alerts. They have a deal. No, too early. Oh, no, they have a deal.
Yeah.
Idiots.
It's like one parent telling you, yes, you can go, and the other one goes, nope. Did you do that? Damn it. And that second parent...
And then they fall on the ground crying.
That second parent is the one that has the attitude that they can put out a fire with a bottle of lighter fluid. Way to go. No, you can't.
Can't do that?
You tried? You should try it.
You sure about that?
Mm-hmm.
I think it can be done.
Okay. Let us know how that works out.
I will.
All right.
Shout out to my dad's this weekend.
Well, that's the place to do it, right? Out at old Bob's farm. And if you're gonna light up a good old fire, you just do it out on the farm.
That's right. He's only burned down a couple of trees with his bonfires.
You ever blown up a truck? That's the one.
He hasn't. Speaking of which, the boy, I promised him that I was going to play that cut from the show, and he's dying to hear it.
Really?
So I think we'll be listening to it in the car on the way out to Grandpa Bob's this week.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I mentioned this last week, but Mark Littell put out another story just on Facebook, and it's probably end up in his book. But so he ended up in the record book right when Lou Brock broke the stolen base record. He got the win that night. He also was in the record books because he gave up the hit to Pete Rose that broke the National League hits record, formerly held by Stan Musial, while Littell was a Cardinal. He's the one that gave it up to Pete Rose. So, I mean, this guy is a treasure trove of stories. I did not know that, that he was the one that gave up that hit. You know what? Probably nobody would have known that until Mark Littell said it out loud. And so I wish that was something I knew when we talked to him. But anyway, so guys, I'm being kind of serious about that, right? How disappointing is it if you're a fan and you acquire a marquee name in a year like this, where you're going to get to enjoy 60 games guaranteed, maybe you don't get anything. And these guys' service time counts this year, right? So Betts is a free agent. Like if they call, I don't know how this works, Pete, and maybe we have to look it up, but how does free agency work? If this season is canceled, if they don't come to an agreement, they draw a line and say, no, we're done. Does free agency kick in any earlier? I wonder.
My understanding, I'm sure I'm wrong, but I think my understanding is that this year counts even if they don't play.
That's what I'm saying. So would free agency start a little earlier because there is no World Series? Because usually it's like post-World Series, the gates open up, right? Or like a week after or 2 weeks after.
Right.
Wouldn't that be great if the Dodgers trade away all that young talent and they never get Mookie Betts to play for them?
Yeah, because that young talent's not leaving Boston anytime soon. That is a fuck you, COVID, right? I mean, yeah, that would have hurt. That would hurt bad. I mean, God. And Marcell Ozuna got that 1 year deal, that deal from Atlanta to reestablish his value. That's going to hurt him too. I mean,
do you think there will be the fans that will burn his jersey even though he never played for them?
I don't know. You know what? It's going to be weird because, you know, and like every other player, but these guys are going to be a year older, and you know, what if Betts had a great lights out year for LA this year? Hell, even a typical Mookie Betts type of year. he was in line for a big payday, and I wouldn't be surprised, guys, if we don't play in 21, his suitors are going to shrink. What his potential suitors could have paid, what they're going to be willing to pay, that's going to shrink. And so that guy has not only been robbed of this year, what he's missed out on so far. I think any kind of long-term multi-million-dollar deal is going to be a lot less than what he could have gotten otherwise. So these guys are all going to be hit by this.
Yeah, I think, Ron, that's one of the probably overlooked pieces of that Jason Stark article that you shared to us on the chat.
Yeah.
Is the possibility that you're going to see a lot of players, one, get released this year.
Yep.
To try to cut salary.
That's right.
But two, see a lot of the guys who are going to hit the free agent market next year, who are expecting to land big multi-year contracts, end up signing 1-year deals, either because the teams don't want to sign them to long deals, or because they don't want to sign to long deals because they want to see what happens with the CBA.
Yeah.
And can you imagine how that's going to depress the free agent market in 2022 when there's a glut of free agents on the market?
Yeah.
You know, they're expecting to get paid, and there are going to be hundreds of them out on the market. Well, you know, it's not going to take any collusion to say, oh, why should I pay you $25 million when I can get somebody who's comparable, who's willing to take 15? There's no collusion there. It's just that the supply is far overwhelming the demand.
I think a vision I just flashed through my head when you were talking was, I am seeing an image filmed from a camera inside of a helicopter over a ranch complex, with Scott Boras standing on the porch, yelling out at the FBI, and laying strewn about the yard are his players that he represents, and half of them have drank his Kool-Aid, and there's going to be a mass disaster ensuing. If it goes the way Pete just described, it's going to get ugly. You're going to have to see that guy reach to the depths of his soul for creativity that he hasn't reached before. I thought he actually peaked out at prestige value, but that magician is going to have to. I mean, he's going to have to pull some alchemy on this one, because I don't know how he thinks he's going to do. He's going to turn this around and be like kind of like have a typical Scott Boras off season if all this stuff is impacted. So that was funny to me. And if there was a silver lining to any shit cloud like this one, what's that guy going to do to make a comeback, right? That'll be fun.
Speaking of Scott Boras, is there any doubt that was the agent that Jason Stark was talking to in his article?
I don't know, man. There's a lot of boisterous agents out there. But he would be the top of my short list of suspects.
It sounded a lot like what Boris would say.
And how indicative is it of the situation that Jason Stark wants to get feedback on how the negotiations are going and what the future of baseball looks like, right? Mm-hmm. He gets, 2-3 front office / owners for the owner's side.
Right.
He doesn't get any players to talk to him. It's agents. Agents. Right. Nobody from the Players Association, no actual players, agents. Fuck those guys. You want to talk about who's screwed up baseball?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
It's the fucking agents. Do these agents really care about what's best for baseball this year and the players being sure that they get their prorated salaries, or are they watching out for their percentages?
Yeah.
Well, of
it's
course.
A pretty easy answer. They're worried about themselves and their almighty dollar.
Well, you know what? They all are, to be fair, right? But yes, right, Pete. I don't disagree. I mean, they all are. This whole thing boils down to money, and as a fan base where you have a pretty significant slice of those fans that are loyal, that buy your shirts, that pay for your overpriced beers and your overpriced hot dogs, and travel hours to go to the ballpark for a weekend. You know, many of those people have either been furloughed or downright just their industry has died, or whatever employer they were working with before is never coming back. And you hear guys like this, are making a lot of money, agents, owners, players, to hear them reject an offer for 10 more games. How do you think that sits with somebody who's desperately looking for a job at the same time, like following along in baseball because they're a loyal fan? I mean, how do you think that lands on their lap? Not well.
And Ron, I tell you, I obviously don't fall into that group. I've been very fortunate throughout all of this.
I have to, yes.
But look, I don't know how passionate I'm going to be coming back. I had way more fun at my son's baseball practice on Tuesday night when there were only 4 kids, because a bunch of parents pulled their kids out of Little League, understandably, but there were 4 kids, just watching those kids play baseball, and seeing my son's face light up when he was ripping ropes, and the coaches were telling him that they were telling the other kids to look out, because if he got a hold of one, they were going to get a ball in the face. And you've seen my kid. He's not particularly athletic, but to see his face light up when he got that compliment, that means way more to me than, you're right, paying $10 for a beer at Wrigley Field. I don't know that I'm going to come back with the same level of passion that I had before. I'm more than happy to listen to Pat Hughes call the games and get on with the rest of my life.
I want to look for this this clip here. Oh, yes. Pete, because you just said something, a lot of people pulling their kids out of things for good reason, right? I want to read this tweet from Aubrey Huff, because I never really had much of an opinion on this guy before. I knew he was a okay player. He was in the league for a few years. He had a big mouth on him. He has a bigger mouth today. I will no longer wear a mask inside any business. It's unconstitutional to enforce. Let's make this bullshit stop now. Who's with me? So, hey, man, way to take a bold stand against doing a little bit to stop a virus that's killed hundreds of thousands of people. Way to make that stand and then stand and shield yourself with the Constitution, which you probably don't even fucking understand. First of all, wearing a mask doesn't rob you of any freedom. Wearing a mask is not, is that an oppression? You got to be fucking kidding me. Like, actually wearing that mask gets you your total freedom back quicker, you dumbass. And so, okay, fine. So I won't protect old people or people who are vulnerable to this by wearing a mask. It's not about you. It's about you being asymptomatic and then coughing and getting that shit on somebody who can't handle it as well as you. So Aubrey Huff, go fuck yourself.
I like it.
At one point in time, gentlemen, we had an opportunity to get him on. It might have been the Cardinals podcast. So I don't know. It was, the name was thrown out. Hey, I think I might be able to get this guy. And I'm like, oh, cool. He's a former player. That might be kind of nice. But now that I've learned more about the guy, that would have been a mistake on my part. I'm glad I didn't. And I just think, this is kind of the pandering to the half-educated dumbasses who only operate on buzzwords, and it's basically the same people that only bark at headlines and they never bother to read an article. That's who these people feed off of, are those types of people. Yeah, Dodge Ram, patriotism. Fuck yeah. Nothing against Dodge Rams, guys. I'm just saying.
It doesn't hurt you. I wear one all day for work.
No, it's not. It's not a big deal. I can go to a store. I can go to any business I want. Look, I only not want to get it myself, but if I was ever asymptomatic, why the hell would I want to put anybody else at risk? Because I'm going to stand behind them. I'm going to throw out the Constitution out there. Give me a fucking break, man. Way to be bold. Stand up for your rights.
My dad had cancer, so he has a compromised immune system. If I bring that back to him, he's in fucking trouble.
Exactly.
So guess what? I'm wearing a mask. I'm wearing gloves when it's appropriate. So please do the same.
Let's clear this up. You're wearing the gloves for the stranger effect.
Well, sit on my hand, then put the glove on. Yes.
No, I'm kind of with you, Elliott, because my son Braden's one of the reasons I haven't been able to see him for a while is because he's got underlying asthma issues. Since he was born. I'm like, God, how terrible would you feel if you brought that stuff around somebody? So, anyway, I don't want to go off into this. The political things, guys, I try to stay away from. But when I see a former baseball player, an athlete, talking shit like this, it's like somebody needs to slap that guy upside the head. It ain't going to be me. He's probably bigger than me. But anyway, can we talk about something else?
Yeah, do you want to talk about that Mark Mcgwire documentary? That was really boring.
I would.
Oh my God!
I got to tell you, it was very kind of Sammy Sosa to make an appearance in there, to give his perspective on how amazing Mark Mcgwire was that year. It was really great. I mean, I thought that was big of Sammy, to be willing to take a back seat there. What a shit show. Could ESPN have fucked that thing up anymore?
I have to break in. No, Pete, they couldn't have. I have to break in.
Terrible.
I have to break in. I have to break in real quick here because Dustin's obviously watching and sent me a picture of Toby Keith. Yeah. So no, Pete. I think from your
so we had 7 weeks of really outstanding documentary content on Sundays from ESPN. Between the 5 weeks of The Last Dance and then the 2 weeks of the Lance Armstrong documentary, and then you follow it up with just an amateurly shot and edited and just poorly constructed. It felt rushed. Just a terrible documentary. Why are you putting in shots from Wrigley Field in, I don't know, 2018, 2019, whatever it was, from a story for 1998? You have no B-roll from 1998. None whatsoever. The only B-roll you could get was with the video screens in the goddamn background. Like,
those weren't there?
The most obvious change to Wrigley Field in the last 30 years. 30 years since they put in lights, and you can't get B-roll that doesn't have the screens in it? Are you kidding me?
And they were marked 1998, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
It's
multiple times.
Do you think people are stupid?
Yes. Yeah, obviously they did.
True.
And I think that this was shot as a Mark Mcgwire documentary. And then they decided, you know what, we can't do this without Sammy because it really doesn't. I mean, it's the story of both of them, but they didn't take, because it's the Mark Mcgwire story. It all centered around Mcgwire.
Yeah, it did. It really did.
The whole story was about.
Yeah, and I don't think any fan.
So then make that the documentary.
Well, I don't
make it an hour and a half documentary all about Mcgwire's race for 70.
Well, if we changed history and we said, he was really the only guy in contention that year for breaking the record and doing that, it would have still been very, very interesting story.
Yeah.
But I think that the fact that somebody was right there with him, some unexpected player, and Sammy was unexpected to be in that kind of territory before that year.
But Ken Griffey Jr. was not a part of this story at all.
No, he was a mention. He was a mention
that he was involved early, but they didn't cut to Ken Griffey Jr. being interviewed.
Oh, they
even
said,
he fell off.
They even summoned Vinny Castillo's name, which I completely forgot about that guy. But it was heavy. It was heavy, Mark Mcgwire. No doubt about that. And I don't know if they didn't have enough access or time with Sammy to get any more of his opinion. I don't know what you would have got out of him, but
please,
you wouldn't have got a lot of substance.
Is Sammy real busy right now? He's not available to do an interview.
I don't know. He said he's happy.
A sympathetic media outlet.
He said he looks happy, but I will tell you this though.
Speaking of which, hang on before you do. Remember your point. I just have to say, how appropriate was it that the background on the wall behind Sammy is a picture of a bunch of clowns? I mean,
I did not. I didn't notice that. I've only seen it once.
I think it may have been his family as clowns, but it didn't matter. It was clowns. It was just perfect. He's got the white face on. He's just a big clown anyway. I mean, it was unbelievably appropriate. Anyway, Ron, you were going to make...
No. Well, so documentary was very heavy on Mark Mcgwire. And, it wasn't... Well, the documentary was interesting because it kind of made me recall some of the things that I experienced in 98, even though I was in the military, guys. And for me, following it closely day in and day out is not like it is today. I think a lot of us forget how much more difficult it was even in 1998 because you didn't have smartphones. We didn't have access like we do all the time. And living in a time zone 5 hours different than what it was in the Central, most of the games were done by the time you got home. I didn't have a laptop at home hooked up to cable internet where I could I couldn't watch a damn replay. And I'd be lucky if I could find somebody's computer, hijack it, log on and just see a damn box score. So, I mean, day in and day out, I would get what I could by going to the mess hall, having dinner there, hoping I'd see the Sports Center ticker flash, at least told me the score or touched on it at some point. But the documentary, I think it was okay, but it wasn't as dramatic as what we had seen like with The Last Dance. It wasn't like, the Lance Armstrong one or any of the others that they've done. I mean, 30 for 30s are usually really good. But Pete, so I agree with you guys. This is one they wanted to get that content out quick. Baseball wasn't happening. They needed to fill it with something. They needed to generate some interest. It seemed like odd timing for this. It's the 22-year anniversary. It makes me think that this documentary wasn't meant for until much, much later. They got it out quicker. And fine, whatever. But it fell a little bit short for me. And I was shocked that they only spent the very end just barely touching on steroids, and then they got off of it real quick and it was over. And I thought that would be a lot heavier. I thought they'd have a lot more, Mcgwire's interview where he kind of admitted he had done that in his career. And they didn't show any of those clips. They barely showed anything of those guys sitting in front of Congress. They didn't show Rafael Palmeiro waving his sausage finger at them and saying, "I've never ever done that." And then he got popped like 5 months later or something. But
they didn't show Sammy pretending to not understand English.
No, they had, yeah, exactly. He totally forgot English in front of them, and so I'm surprised they didn't spend more time there, and I expected them to. But anyway, so what I took from the documentary though was memories from that point in time, and there were and it's all about context, right? So if you're a Cardinals fan, you got to understand that like in the early 90s, the Cardinals were terrible. Whitey Herzog left the team midway through 1990. They had Red Shandy was the interim manager. I think I could be wrong about that, but I think he was the interim manager until the end of the year. And then they hired Joe Torre. And Joe Torre was there until 1995 when he was let go. But from that stretch, they had a couple decent years where they're over 500, but they just weren't good. They didn't have a face to that franchise by the time you got to 1997. Ozzie Smith had retired, and there wasn't that guy in St. Louis. There was no marquee player. Of course, you had Ray Lankford, you had Ron Gant, and Brian Jordan, but you just didn't have that name in St. Louis. And I think St. Louis over that decade was kind of forgotten. And all of a sudden, you bring in a big name like this guy. Who I believe when they traded for him in 97, he hit 24 home runs for the Cardinals from the trade deadline on, which was like phenomenal. Like we hadn't seen that ever in St. Louis. A home run pace like that, a power threat like that, excitement like that. Like we didn't know what that was like. The last legitimate home run hitter we had was Jack Clark, all the way back to 1987. And he hit like 35 that year. I mean, I could be off on the year. Maybe he did that in 85, but like we didn't have a legitimate guy. And so it was a brand new thing for St. Louis. St. Louis known for small ball, known for speed, known for whitey ball. That's what it was. And all of a sudden you've got something completely different. You've got that exciting thing that you see like the Yankees have or the Dodgers have or some team with deep pockets they have. And now you've got it. And so in 1997, it was a big deal. And then when he signed the extension, you thought, holy shit, he's staying here. And he actually he just finished this year with 57. Oh my God, a Cardinal could actually break this record. And that's where I think the phenomenon started for Cardinals fans. Like I would have picked Cardinals last to ever have a player that breaks a record like that because they just weren't known to have power hitters in their team.
Yeah. I mean, totally disappointed. I mean, I was watching Twitter as I was watching this documentary, and it just started coming across like there was another guy in this race, right? It wasn't just Mark McGwire. I mean, there was a lot of back and forth. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Cubs fans were counting just like the Cardinals fans. You had the big signs. When he hit like 62 and 63 at the time, where I mean it got close towards the end. I mean, Mcgwire was still ahead, but I mean there was a lot of tension between fans, between the homers being hit. I just think they missed an opportunity to really capture that feeling that was going on between the two cities during this time. And God, I mean, can they do a redo? Because there was a lot of magic missed in this documentary. Well, and it's a damn shame too. I mean, I could almost guarantee that there's probably somebody who has cut a YouTube video that is better than this shit.
Well, there was a documentary done near that time, and it was on. I had it. Probably still have it up in the attic. It's on VHS, but you can find it on YouTube. Where it was a documentary. I don't know if it was done by Major League Baseball. It may have been, but there was a documentary close to that time that was done, and I have it. I thought that documentary was much better than this one as far as just capturing the feeling of it. Of course, that documentary didn't know what we know years later about what those guys were doing or potentially doing. They didn't know how, that was before Sammy had actually left Chicago under terrible conditions. And
I was at that game
that he created himself. But, it's like none of that stuff was known at the time. And so all this now. And so anyway, it was, it fell a little short for me, but I didn't have super high expectations because this one was kind of surprising. Like I just heard about it like weeks before they were going to air it, and I'm like, that's kind of strange that that's coming up now. Like nobody talks about that anymore. And so, but the one thing that you gotta look back on, we've talked about it a lot on here. Look, we had a strike in '94. We lost we didn't have a World Series in '94. We had a shortened, disrupted season in '95 due to a labor dispute, right? A strike. And if it weren't for that year, and it weren't for this era of guys just randomly cracking 51 home runs, Brady Anderson, it brought baseball back a little bit faster. I don't think you can deny that. If it weren't for that, baseball's rise back to where it got in the early 2000s wouldn't have been there if it weren't for these things, right? It's really hard to argue that.
Right.
And it makes you think that, not to go back to today, because today sucks, but if there's another work stoppage, you can't rely on something else like that happening to help bring the game back, that excitement.
Absolutely.
How are you going to do that again? Anyway, so yeah, it fell a little flat. I will admit that, but it did bring back some memories. It bring back memories of me being out in San Diego at an opportune time where I got to watch them go through San Diego. The front page of the newspaper had a picture of San Diego's park, Jack Murphy. Thank you, Pete. You corrected me on that a few weeks ago. It showed Jack Murphy Stadium, and it showed lines to every home run Mcgwire had hit that year and where they would have landed. And it was Qualcomm, actually, at the time is what it was called. But where those home runs would have landed at Qualcomm. And they opened the gates early, and that was packed. The bleachers were absolutely packed. Some radio show actually moved their live radio production out there into the bleachers. And so it was pretty cool. I'd never seen anything like that, and I don't know if we'll ever see anything like that again.
Yeah, I tell you, where I think it missed, one of the criticisms of The Last Dance was people didn't like the jumping around in time, right? But in retrospect, looking at that and comparing it to this, it absolutely makes sense because it puts everything in context. And that was the one thing that I felt that this failed to do, right? And Ron, you hit on it absolutely. They didn't talk about steroids until the very end.
Right.
Yeah, they had a brief interlude where they talked about Andro. But for the most part, they'd completely laid off steroids. Didn't talk about it at all until the end. And it was just kind of then this is the shadow that put it on. It would have been so much more interesting and they pretended like it suddenly cropped up in 1998. You're right. I remember 96. We were talking about, come on, Brady Anderson has suddenly hit 50 home runs. And I don't know if he used, but that's what people were talking about. That's what the assumption was.
Brett Boone. Not Aaron Boone. Brett Boone all of a sudden had forearms the size of his thighs like years earlier. And like guys like that wasn't normal. Not normal.
Exactly. So don't pretend that it only started up after 1998. There was talk about it among fans in the years before. So you would have told a better story if this had been a story about suspected steroid use. In the context of the home run race, rather than the home run race and, here's this little thing that people said in order to cast aspersions on it, and how much more interesting would that cut have been when Mcgwire hit that home run in San Francisco and they cut to a normal looking Barry Bonds, right?
Yeah.
The look on Barry Bonds' face there was, all right, here we go, motherfucker.
Yep.
I'm juicing tomorrow. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the look on his face was.
Yeah,
Because
it really was.
I think it was inarguable. He was, if not the best all-around player in baseball.
Yeah.
One of the top two.
Yeah, and you look at Griffey that year too, right? Well, no, not that year, but if you look at Griffey in 2000 when he first went to Cincinnati, and Edmonds was traded to St. Louis, and Edmonds was getting all the spotlight that year because he hit like 42 home runs, signed a big extension. Like people, Anaheim gave up on him. I mean, fuck, they gave him up for Kent Bottenfield, former Cub, by the way. Thank you, Chicago. I know, but you got a little taste of Edmonds.
Yeah, we did.
You did. And you didn't win a playoff game that year, though. But anyway, I don't want to digress. You heard hearsay about this whole thing, Pete. And I guess you heard a little bit about Griffey being unhappy that he wasn't getting any attention. It was all somehow going to Jim Edmonds. Like, who the hell is this guy? And you heard hearsay about the same thing about Barry Bonds. And I thought that was an interesting shot they put up there, too. The disgusted, like, eye-rolling look of a home run being hit over him. And you're like, yeah, watch what I'm going to do, you son of a bitch. Like, just 3 years later, I'm going to eclipse everything you have done. And, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter about Barry Bonds because he only had, like, think about it. Like, how much of a percentage of pitches did he have fewer than the guys who broke the record the first time? Because nobody wanted to pitch to him. He was intentionally walked all the time. Like, literally, every at bat, he had, like, one chance to hit it. And the guy would do it. So you can't really steal that much credit away from him. That's a pretty goddamn hard thing to do. And he still did it. Despite what we think, he still did it.
Yeah. He was still a really awesome hitter. It's still you can have the biggest muscles in the world and still not hit a baseball. I mean, those big muscles aren't going to make you hit a baseball. You still have to be able to know what pitch is coming. You got to be able to have that hand-eye coordination, and you got to work at it.
Right.
I mean, did these guys take steroids? But you still got to be able to hit the damn ball.
I agree, but you know what? And Mcgwire himself alluded to this in the documentary. It had nothing to do with giving him more muscles and him being able to hit the ball farther, right? Mark Mcgwire showed his rookie year that he was a legitimate, as he said, he was born to hit home runs. He was born to hit the baseball far.
He wanted to be a pitcher.
What steroids did is they helped an injury-prone player throughout his career stay healthy enough to get enough at bats to be able to make a run at the home run record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Mark Mcgwire cannot stay healthy, and so he does not get enough at bats to hit that many home runs.
Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Pete. And that's the thing that, look, the fact is, like, we don't know how many did and how many didn't. Like, we'll probably never know the cut here or the share of how many people were cheating, how many weren't. The thing that's always kind of pissed me off about this, though, is that, you probably can't throw a guy like Clemens or Bonds into this because they were going to be big leaguers anyway for a very long time. You take some of the other guys, like a Ken Caminiti or who's some of the other guys, like Palmeiro. He was going to be a Major League Baseball player for a long time too. But you take some of these other guys that were just kind of on the cusp that didn't last that long. How many jobs did they cost other guys? Because they did this, right? And that's the thing that always kind of sticks with me. Like that's the one thing that really sucks is, how many guys like didn't get the opportunity because somebody was doing just enough to get ahead of them in the wrong way. But then again, I'm speaking out both sides of my mouth. We don't know how rampant it was, and so you don't know. I mean, the bigger question is who didn't do it. Like, who really didn't do it, and we'll never know.
Well, it seems pretty clear, and I have to say, it was such a nice reminder. It seems pretty clear that Ken Griffey Jr. didn't, but just the few shots that they had of him in that documentary, has there ever been a prettier swing in baseball than Ken Griffey?
I would have to throw Will Clark's name in the hat just from the left side, those swingers. And Will Clark did not have, like, if you looked at Will Clark's swing of bat, he did not have this refined, hey, I've went through a bunch of baseball clinics to cut my swing down and my motion down. Like, he's one of those players that, like, nah, I know how to swing a bat. Don't want to talk to you. Get that gadget off my arm. Not going to watch any film. This is how I've swung a bat forever. No, I agree with you, though. Ken Griffey Jr.'s swing, especially when he connected on one, was you're hearing a lot of noise in the background. I'm pretty sure you guys can guess who that is. But I'll turn him down here for a second. Yes, when Ken Griffey connected on anything, he had the prettiest home run swing. Absolutely. Like ever. And you can't teach that. Kids, don't try to mimic it because he was built that way and you're not. And if you try to do it, you're going to pop out a lot.
Yep.
You bring it on the hair curler?
Yep. Hair curler, are you there? Hair curler.
Hello?
Not
I didn't know you're talking to me.
You're the hair curler. We can't see you tonight, but yes, we know we're probably you're there curling your bangs, looking down into your. Actually, I don't know if you're looking to your phone or not. You're just doing whatever you want to do. I imagine the camera on your phone's probably on the ceiling fan, but that's fine. We haven't seen Joey for a while. We'll figure out some solution, Braden, where we can get your mug back on the screen. We were talking about the documentary ESPN 30 for 30, Mark Mcgwire, Sammy Sosa home run chase, long before you existed, son. You were a twinkle in your dad's eye at that point, but did you watch that?
Maybe not his eye.
To be honest, no. I wanted to watch it, but I kind of forgot about it.
Well, so did most other people. Until ESPN decided to bring it to us in 2020. I have a feeling that was a 2020. That was probably going to be a documentary for the 25th year anniversary of that event. And
is there a way I can still watch it even though it already aired?
I'm sure you can. I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably in
But,
the archives.
Plus.
Yeah.
But, baseball is very confusing because, I get a notification on my phone. Baseball, they got an agreement. Oh, there's an agreement. Oh, yay.
Oh, he's behind our conversation.
Oh, yep, I'm switching topics. I'm my show.
It's not your show. We moved off of that. We moved off of that a half an hour ago. But go ahead. Go ahead and tell us how you feel.
I gotta get my say, okay? So, living my daily life, playing the show. Again, I get a Twitter notification. Baseball's an agreement. Oh, yay, everyone, the world's at peace.
Braden, hang on for a second. Why are you talking like you're on the radio in the 1940s? Well, I get this notification, see? And see? Like, what are you doing that? Speak in your normal voice.
I am. It's just, so I'm playing, show, I get the notification. Everything's all good. And then it's like, oh no, it's not fully agreed on yet. And then the players, they want to counter and get more games and whatnot. And for me, it's just get me the plan, get me baseball. I don't want to hear if they're close to an agreement, if they're not close. I don't just tell me when it's agreed. I don't care if it's close. I don't care if it's 99.9. Give me the 100% agreement. I don't.
It's yes, he's my son, and he just echoed everything I just said. Like Braden, when you go back and listen to this tomorrow, I'm assuming you probably don't go back and listen to these because you only listen to your part.
Yeah.
You only fast forward to when you're on. That's fine. If you would have heard the beginning of this, I said the exact same thing. I don't want to hear anything else. Nothing. Just tell me when it's back, whether it's 21 or whether it's mid-July. I don't care. I don't want to hear a word from anybody. Not a player. Not Jeff Passan, John Heyman. Go through the list. Don't want to hear from any of you. Just tell us when it's back because we're fatigued. We're tired. This is like when you watched COVID-19 coverage. It was kind of interesting for the first 7 days because we're all like, what the hell is happening? We want to know more. And then by day 6, 7, 5, hell, maybe after the first night, we're like, I'm not watching anymore. Where's Ozark? Is Ozark back on or is something else back on? And you just moved on. And so Braden, I think we all echoed the same thing you just said. All of us. Like, we're done. We're done with you, social media guys. And players included. I don't exclude them. Done with all of you, and we'll see you when you're back. And that's it.
I'm there with the players who have just said, "Tell me where and when." That's it.
Right.
That's all.
Tell me where and when, but okay. Well, I'll be there, but I need 10 more games.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Tell us where and when. Wait.
10 more games.
I got one more thing. No, so not tell you where and when.
Right.
That's not it. Because
as long as it's 10 days earlier than what you're going to tell me.
Right. 50 games, August 1st, we'll see you there. Oh, well, wait. We said where and when, but what we meant was
more than what you were going to offer.
Right. Exactly. So don't tell you where and when.
I'm dressing up as Rob Manfred for Halloween. I just need a good clown costume.
You need a little bit of black putty between your teeth too.
You're gonna need a name tag for that, Braden, because just a clown costume is not enough. You could be Sammy Sosa, you could be Tony Clark,
Antonio
you could
Brown.
be Scott Boras. You're gonna need to have a name tag.
Well, yeah, but even if I dressed up as Rob Manfred, I don't think anyone would even know who I was.
No. Unless you're in Miami.
Apparently, there's supposed to be a documentary on ESPN about all the commissioners of the major sports.
Well, it was kind of a town hall roundtable type of thing, but yeah, it happened already.
Yeah, I mean, what's Rob Manfred gonna do? Just be like, oh yeah, my sport's coming back? Maybe.
I don't know, but I'm sure he enjoyed participating on it since he declared 24 hours earlier he's 100% certain baseball would be back.
Yeah, and then walked it back.
And had to walk it back live in front of everybody. Yeah, that was good. All right, guys, I'm sick of baseball. I don't want to talk about the documentary on the home run chase anymore. What I do want to talk about briefly is the latest Gallery on the Mandalorian on Disney Plus. If you guys had a chance to watch this is about the composer of the music.
Yeah,
loved it.
It was amazing, and actually my wife watched it with me, and it was, those things aren't too long; they're pretty short. But She was like, "I'm always impressed by people that can do this. I don't know how they think or how they come up with this, but to see him as he was walking through, like experimenting with sounds, and you saw him, he ordered a specific, whatever that instrument was."
Yeah, he said it like he ordered it right away. He ordered like 3 of them, and then he's like, "This is one of the first things that I played." And he's like, "That's it." And it's like, what do you mean that's it?
Well, it's an iconic sound already.
You guys,
yeah.
As I texted you guys, I think that we're seeing and I know this is not his first thing, right? He did Black Panther. He's done a number of other soundtracks, but I think we're seeing the genesis of the next John Williams, at least as far as the Star Wars galaxy is concerned. I've been far more impressed with what he's done for The Mandalorian than what Michael Giacchino has done for Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're going to see his name attached to any additional Star Wars content that comes in the future.
Right. And
I think he's going to be the go-to composer.
Yeah. Well, and I think
subscribe for future Star Wars content.
Oh God, he quoted a Mike Zero thing. Nobody knows who that is, Braden, except you and me that make fun of him. But anyway, what's interesting about why he worked so well for this is because he wasn't stuck with just a symphonic soundtrack, right? Michael Giacchino was, but that's okay. That's kind of what he had done, and he had done it well. No, he'd done it for Star Trek, and it was a JJ guy. But it worked well for Rogue One because Rogue One sat right there in the saga, like a space in between the saga, and so it did for Solo as well. But for this one, like they're really kind of getting out there, and all the Filoni projects while they've all been animated, none of them have been 100% symphonic. They've been a mix of it, right? And and I think with this one, it was really interesting because you're kind of going into territory where it didn't necessarily include saga characters. So I think they had the liberty at this point and the freedom to go outside of that. And what impresses me the most, Pete, I don't know if you were saying this, but instantly the first sound you hear from the Mandalorian, at least the main theme, are already iconic. Like they're instantly iconic. You hear that, you know exactly what show that comes from. You get that exact feeling that when you first saw him walking with the child and the thing floating behind him, you know where that was. You can instantly tie to it. It is the perfect sound for this show. And the fact that this guy went from instrument to instrument to instrument and put all these things together, I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah. I thought one of the coolest parts was when he took his phone to the set to show Favreau and Filoni, and they're just like, I mean, they were blown. Like, you could see on their faces how blown away they were about the sound that he had come up with. It was so cool to witness.
Yeah,
Ron,
really.
You mentioned how iconic the theme is. No better indication. Go to iTunes, just type in The Mandalorian, and look how many covers of the Mandalorian theme are up on iTunes. In addition to everything that Ludwig Göransson did.
Yeah.
Just literally dozens of people who have covered that theme. That tells you just how much of a cultural impact it's had. Now, granted, it's a bunch of, but still, it has had an impact, and it's something that's stuck.
Yeah, you totally threw off my train of thought. I don't know what that sound was. Play it again, but turn it up. Nerds. Okay, I got it. The actor was John Matuszak, right? That was his.
No, that was not John Matuszak.
Wasn't? Who was that?
Ogre.
It was the character was Ogre, and the guy pronounced his name wrong. I think a Nerds too, and he said, "No, it's Ogre, you asshole."
The actor was Donald Richard Gibb.
I was a little bit off. Okay. Braden, you've not seen Revenge of the Nerds, have you?
No.
Okay, well, good.
It's going to be a while before his dad's going to allow him to see that.
Yeah, it'll be a little while. Of course, he's seen Deadpool, so.
Yeah, but Deadpool doesn't have.
Yep.
As a plot.
Yeah, yep. You're right. Okay, so yes, good old 80s movies that could get away with murder, literally. And so, you're right, Pete. Like, you hear this. What I was impressed with what my wife is, because she hasn't watched any of these yet. She watched that one. She's like, she was amazed at. She's like, oh, I told her, I'm like, I think this guy played all the instruments, not the symphonic stuff, but I think he played all the other instruments in that movie. I think they recorded the symphonic stuff and he put that other stuff in on top of it, but I'm not so sure. Did he play the guitar in there? Did he play those instruments, or was it other professional musicians that played that stuff and he composed it all? I don't know. It didn't really didn't really clear that part up, but the way I took it.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Did they?
Yeah, they did. The way that they opened the episode, right? Instead of having like a little introductory thing and then going to the round table, they spent a lot of time with him, and they showed how he basically layered the theme together. He started with the recorder.
Well, they showed that, but I'm not.
He played the.
But
bass,
I'm not sure.
He played the drum.
I guess my question is, like, I know he composed all that, like he created all that stuff, but is it him we hear? It's him. Okay.
Yes.
See, that wasn't clear to me. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, we talked about it early on. After the first like 1 or 2 episodes of Mandalorian, we'd reviewed it on the show. I'm like, gosh damn, one of the things I'm most impressed with is the music on this. It's fantastic. I love it, and it's all over Amazon Prime too. If you're an Amazon Prime person, you get the music there. You can listen to all those soundtracks, and it's yeah, you're right, Pete. I mean, I haven't looked at it on iTunes, but if you just type in Mandalorian, even on Amazon Music, you see a ton of stuff come up, and there's only one real one. You actually have to type in kind of soundtrack and it'll come up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you look and like I said, his filmography is impressive. He did the soundtrack for Black Panther. He did it for both Creed films. He did it for Fruitvale Station. He was a performer on Trolls World Tour, which I know you loved, Ron.
Oh boy.
But you look at all this, he has an impressive resume.
Mm-hmm.
This, though, I think has the potential to launch him into the stratosphere.
Yeah, this is a wildly popular show, and I can only imagine like there's subscriptions that are going to go up when season 2 enters the fray. It's going to be fantastic. But yeah, the music from The Mandalorian is one of the many things I've enjoyed about it. I've enjoyed the storytelling. I've enjoyed the fact that Favreau and Filoni are behind it. Filoni can I'm not gonna jinx the guy by saying they can do no wrong, because there is the Sunny Day in the Void series about the astromech droids and Clone Wars that was god awful. Still don't know why he did it, but he managed to bring those back at the very end of Clone Wars, and it wrapped up. The droids, the astromechs that were at the very end that Ahsoka recruited to help them out, shit, it made me appreciate the fact that they had done that for that grueling 4 hours of terrible astromech storytelling, only to bring him back at the end. And you're like, I know those guys, so kind of appreciate that he did this. And so, yeah, so that guy's, I don't know. I think we did this last week where can somebody just please give him the key to Lucasfilm?
Yeah.
Can he please shut the door and say, you know what, Disney, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to cut you a check every year. Get the hell out of here. And we'll handle this. We got it. You go on, do your thing, take KK with you, and go make another ET movie.
I feel like most of the time that she hasn't been around, she's only been in the 1 or 2 episodes of the gallery, but a lot of the cut scenes of the behind the scenes and the making, she's not around at all. I feel like they really left Favreau and Filoni to kind of do their thing with all the other directors.
Yeah.
I think she was busy screwing up the movies. She couldn't really hang around the television show. She couldn't be bothered with a television show.
Right, that's
She's
silly
got
cartoons.
much bigger projects to screw up.
Right, she couldn't. Yeah. I can't mess around with those silly cartoons. We tried to kill those off one time, but the fans cried. So,
Killed them off 2 times.
Braden, any opinion? I don't know if you've been watching any of these the gallery things on the Mandalorian. They're almost like the behind the scenes stuff you get on like a Blu-ray release or something. But have you been watching?
I watched the first 5 episodes, but I thought it was over. I thought they ended it.
It's probably because I said that out loud. I thought it was over after 5, but I was clearly wrong.
I thought it was over, and then I got on Disney Plus the other day, and I watched the first 5 episodes. I started to watch the 6, but really wasn't watching it. The Jimmy John's sandwich was just a little too good, and that's kind of what had my attention.
I think there's
but
one more left.
I like it a lot. I'm a big fan of behind the scenes.
You think Pete thinks there's one more left, which would be great. I mean, that means it's out tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I think I used to watch all the time when we had the DVDs or the Blu-rays of all the Star Wars movies. I feel like I used to watch the behind the scenes of all the movies more than I did the actual movies. Like,
yes,
I always loved
yep.
behind the scenes, even when I was little.
Yeah, and you're a lot like your uncle because he watches those a lot more than he does the actual product. So, yeah, so that's great. So there's one more tomorrow, hopefully, at least, and it'd be great if there were more. But boy, season 2 can't get here quick enough, especially when baseball is as bad as it is. Performing as bad as it is. If it was a puppy, I would send it to puppy boot camp for like 2 weeks. Teach it how to piss outside instead of in the house, and that's how I feel about baseball right now. It's a puppy I didn't want, the kids wanted. Now they're not taking care of it, so I've got to. And
so would you say Rob Mumford is peeing on your rug, Manfred?
He's not only pissed in my rug, he's pissed in everybody's Cheerios multiple times, and he has no remorse over it. So look. He's been commissioner for what? How many years? He's been dealing with this crisis for how long? What's this is a low blow. This is unnecessary, but I'm saying anyway. Hey, man, what's 5 minutes in a dentist chair to push those 2 front teeth together? That's all I'm going to say, and we're going to end on that. Pete, take us out.
Well, if you are not watching us live each week, are you going to give me a bed? No? Yes?
Giving you some music.
Not sure. I think I can hear it.
Background music.
When we're not live on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, you can find us anywhere and everywhere. Our website is teamofrivalspodcast.com. We're on Twitter at Team of Rivals Pod, on Instagram at Team of Rivals Podcast, and on Facebook at Team of Rivals Podcast. And I'm actually going to take a break out here because if you're not following us on social, you're missing out. And I really don't have an answer for it, and I'd love to turn the floor over to Ron here for a second.
What?
So that we can try and find out, even though I blame Elliott for it, I'm sure that Ron had something to do with it. Why the hell did Wilson Contreras block us?
I have no idea. I really have no idea.
I'm not personally blocked, so
no, I'm not either. And so,
well, I know it wasn't,
which is
but
weird.
Elliott, I think you're the one who intimated to his advances to me a Khalifa at some time, weren't you?
Well, we talked.
Why would
about
they
it
have
on
ever
the show
listened to
once.
this? He
Well,
would
maybe
not
it
have
got to
listened to
him.
this.
Maybe.
Maybe somebody told him about it.
I mean, I don't know. I saw something on my personal thing. I'm like, I want to comment on this, but not as me. I want to go to our show account and do it from there. And as soon as I tried to look up his name, I'm like, what the hell? Why are we blocked by Wilson Contreras?
Elliott, I think that you need to mend this bridge. You need to fix this because obviously you're to blame. So we'd like a report back by next week.
Okay.
Or
should I
just
slide into his DMs?
Yes, slide into his DMs as yourself since he hasn't blocked you yet, and ask him what we did to offend him, and ask him to please, 1, unblock us, and 2, come on the show. So that Ron can comment directly to him.
I'm not required to comment.
That having been said.
Yeah.
You know, hey, does Wilson Contreras have a cameo? Does he have a cameo or anything like that where you can get ask him why he blocked you on like a cameo site or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what that is. You're speaking foreign language.
So, when the season starts,
all right, so obviously we're not going to be able to
restart
the music.
I will get a big sign and say, "Hey Wilson, why'd you block us on Twitter?" And I'll put
you know what?
If you go to a game and you're going to ask him that, you need to have a sign that says, "Hey Wilson, why did you block at Team of Rivals Pod?"
Or just say,
on Twitter.
"Hey Wilson, please unblock."
Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, or listen.
There you go.
That's what your sign needs to say.
Dad, you need to take Emily or something. So a little girl was holding up the sign.
Like, please unblock my dad's podcast on your.
There you go.
All right, so trying to wrap things up, send us an email at the show at teamofrivalspodcast.com. You can find Elliott unblocked by Wilson Contreras on Twitter at
TOR_Elliott.
You can find Ron unblocked by Wilson Contreras on Twitter at
TOR_Ron75. B?
You can't find me. If you could, I might be blocked by Wilson Contreras. Who knows?
As you should. Braden.
Braden, where can we find you?
You can find me on MLB The Show and Fortnite, but I will do my research and I will see if Wilson Contreras has a cameo where you can pay somebody to get a personal message from them.
Oh,
and if
that's
it's
not
like
a bad
$50
idea.
or whatever, I feel like if he has a cameo, send it, ask him why you blocked you on
you know what?
Twitter,
Our good friend Braden, our good friend Benji Molina has one. We can see if Benji can do
Does
it.
he?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, but that would be a good idea. If we can mend the fence with Wilson, get him to unblock us, and then get a cameo so that he does a promo for us. That's the solution. Good thinking, Brad.
There you go.
Yeah, that's not a bad. You see,
Hey,
you came in here and you added something. I'm gonna mute you now.
I'll look up.
If you are watching us live, you can also catch us anywhere you listen to podcasts on Apple Podcasts or Player.fm. And if you love the show, be sure to subscribe, unsubscribe, then resubscribe. After you've done that, leave us a review by going to ratethispodcast.com/TOR. Follow the simple instructions and be sure to give us a great one. Ron, take us home.
All right. Interesting show tonight. I know that content was coarse. It's like 80 grit sandpaper. But we're happy to do it, and we'll do it again next week. And hopefully we have, my God, hopefully next week doesn't get to that point where it is this week, because I don't want to do that again. I don't want to lead into a show with that much negative energy. So for all of us here, Team of Rivals Podcast, and my son who cracked himself into the show tonight, we'll do this again next week. We love you all so much. We'll talk to you very soon. Bye-bye, everyone.